Today, I'm going to show you how to do a classically braised short rib with a really interesting cutting technique that you can do at home. What we're looking at here is a full bone-in chuck short rib. Well, all I did was cut some of the meat off, butterfly it over, and tie it. So all you'll need to accomplish this is a nice knife and some butcher's twine. Here, I've bought a full slab, if you will, of chuck bone-in short ribs. This is something that you'll easily find at the grocery store, and all you have to do is just speak to your butcher and ask them to give you the complete piece uncut. A lot of times at the store, they cut these ribs in half and then sell them that way, so you want the full slab of chuck short ribs to make this plate presentation happen. Chuck short ribs are a 4-bone piece of short rib that comes from the chuck ant. We're going to get into the details of this cutting. First thing I want to do is split between the bones. So you just find the bone, find the tender tissue between, cut that right off. So now that you have this piece to work with, if you want to trim some of this excess fat, that'll work because you're going to be butterflying this piece of meat. So I got that off of there, and now what I'll do is I'll just find where this bone is and ride the bone as tight as I can with this knife. Stay close to the bone, feel the knife kind of scrape against the bone, go about halfway down. Once you get it halfway down, peel that meat back and start to fold it over. Once you get it started there, then you make a small incision about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way through this meat, just to allow it to fold over more. You might need to nick it a little more. There you go. And then we'll get that piece to fold over. So that's going to give this its really interesting shape, this really impressive presentation after it's all cooked. And then I'll take the butcher's twine. I usually put about 2 pieces. The reason for this is when it braises, it gets super tender and wants to fall apart. And if you just have 1 piece, it might cut through the meat. So by using 2, you ensure that it'll stay together. I kind of do a double knot to keep that from slipping too much when I'm tying it. And then I'll go in with my second piece of twine. Come around twice. That should help this get nice and tight without slipping. And then again, double knot. I'll cut off any excess twine I've got here. So there I've got that really impressive short rib. It's kind of like a tomahawk short rib or just a long bone short rib. So I'll go in and do the same to the rest of these. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get these seasoned up liberally with some salt and pepper. Then we'll get started on our searing and then begin our braise. If you wanted to, you could trim these bones back a little bit and make them a little cleaner. But during the braising process, the meat should pull back from the bone naturally. I'm going to get these short ribs searing now. First thing I'll do is add a little bit of canola oil to a preheated Dutch oven. I like doing this Dutch oven because I've got a lot of room to sear these in. I've got this set to a medium-high heat because I really want to get a good sear on these short ribs. The key with getting that good sear is developing flavor. All that browning that you see on the surface of the short ribs after a good sear, that's all just intensified flavor. I'm using a pretty large oval-shaped Dutch oven here. And that's really important because I have a little more surface area to work with, so I'm not overcrowding the pan. These 4 short ribs in this pan is about all it can handle. If your pan's any smaller, work in batches. All right, so now flip and get a sear on the side of these. So I'm getting a good sear on these short ribs. It's going to take a few minutes on each side, but really what I'm looking for is color. So that's what you want to see. It's got that really rich, dark brown color. If it's still a little gray, let it go. It's worth it to wait for that good sear. Otherwise, you're not doing yourself any favors. All right, I'm going to flip them. So I've seared these short ribs on all sides, and I've got a really nice deep brown crust developing. So I'm going to pull these off the heat and drop my heat to medium-low because I'm going to add in my mirepoix. So instead of your traditional French-style mirepoix of carrots, celery, and onions, I'm gonna make it a little bit more Italian, and I'm gonna add fennel, onion, carrot, and garlic, because I really like the flavor of fennel. It's got a slight anisey flavor to it that I think really makes this dish a little more complex and a little bit different. So I'm just gonna let these cook a little bit to get soft. I'm not trying to sear these like I was the short ribs. What I'm really trying to do is soften them and allow them to release some of their juices. That way all the flavors kind of meld together. I'll season this with a little bit of salt and pepper as well, just because it's good to season along the way. That way all of your ingredients really help develop their flavor. So now that I've allowed these to cook down a little bit and soften, I'm going to go in with 2 ingredients that are heavy on umami. First is tomato paste, which is just a heavy reduction of pureed tomatoes, and then anchovy paste. Now some people may say, I don't like fish, I don't like anchovies. Well, you're really not going to taste anchovies in this. It's more about the richness, the salty, the deep flavors that helps develop in this recipe. And then I'm going to add a couple bay leaves as well. So all I'm doing right here is trying to make sure that everything gets a little bit coated in that tomato paste and all the ingredients are well distributed throughout. Now I'm going to go in with my 2 final ingredients. I've got some balsamic vinegar. So that's what I'm deglazing with here. And this I'm using in place of red wine. A lot of recipes use red wine, and I thought we would do something different. And balsamic being slightly acidic, just like wine, but not as strong as a typical vinegar, really adds a nice complex flavor to this braise. So it's important that I brought this to a simmer on the stovetop because I'm going into a fairly low oven and it won't come to a simmer if I just put it directly in. So I want to get that liquid simmering before I reintroduce these short ribs. So now I've got them nestled nicely in the braising liquid. We'll go on with the lid. And I'm going to put this into a preheated 325-degree oven. These have been braising at 325 for 3 hours. They're smelling awesome. And they look amazing as well. So I'll just plate these up, and you can take the sauce and reduce it down and strain the veggies if you want, or you can keep it a little more rustic and just put those veggies with some of this braising liquid right over top of everything like a nice gravy. Leaving the strings on helps keep these short ribs together because they're so tender. I've reserved some fennel fronds for garnish. They add a nice pop of color and they're pretty fragrant and flavorful. So a simple cutting technique turns a rustic cut like short ribs into something super impressive on the plate. For this recipe and more on braising, check out CertifiedAngusBeef.com.